Hello and welcome to the primaryodors.org YouTube channel. I've been wanting to do an unboxing video, so today I'm going to do that. This package is from Perfumer Supply House. So I placed my order on January 9th, and then I got the shipment notification email on January 19th. And then the tracking said the next day that it was out for delivery in Danbury, Connecticut. Now, Connecticut's the state I was born in, but I don't live there now. I live in Arizona now. And out for delivery on the opposite side of the continent isn't exactly what I was hoping for. Fortunately, the shipping carrier got it together, and the package arrived today, January 22nd. And now I get to open it! I always love receiving shipments of perfume ingredients and aroma compounds because there's so many smells, a lot of times new smells, or sometimes even ones that I recognize and go, that's what that is. When I first received Cyclamel, and then again I received Bourgeonal, it was like, I know this. This is in perfumes, and it's plasticky, and it's styrofoamy, and it's amazing. So the first one we've got here is Delta Decalactone. Now I already have Gamma Decalactone, and it's waxy, peachy, a bit milky. It's a really nice smell. And let's see how the Delta Lactone smells. It's a lot more subtle. It's very similar. And it reminds me a little bit more of heptanol, or maybe hexanol. But it's got that waxy peachiness. It's a little bit dark, kind of the way curry is or patchouli is, just a little bit. This is very interesting. Up next we have aldehyde C9. So I'm not going to open this yet. I'm going to dilute it. I bought 2 of them. I wanted twice the quantity that it comes in, but I didn't want to go with the next quantity up and have to have a whole bunch of diluted. Next is citronellol. Now I bought some citronellol from a different supplier, and that stuff is a pale yellow oily liquid. It smells like citronella, so what I expected. But when I went to dilute some of it to use in perfumery, citronellol is supposed to be, I forget if it's miscible or if it's just very, very soluble in ethanol, and this did not fully dissolve. It would not mix. So I got this to compare. Is the other stuff really all that good? Is it really pure citronellol? This smells very different from that pale yellow oil. This is a much cleaner smell. It's citrusy, waxy. I would even call it a little bit aldehyde. And it has a little bit of that sort of dirty fetidness that citronella and geranium also has it. Geraniol has it. This doesn't have as much of the fetidness as either geraniol or that other brand, citronellol. So I think that other stuff is no good. This is the stuff to use. And that illustrates the importance of sometimes you might receive from one supplier a sample of a compound that's not the pure compound, or that's just not a good quality. And so getting the same thing from another supplier that you trust more, in this case this is a perfumery supplier and the other is not, and so you can get a feel for what the compound actually is and not just take someone's word for it. Civitone, 10% in ethanol. Now I have some artificial civet. This came from Pellwall, which is a supplier I really like. I always love receiving Pellwall shipments. This one I repackaged it, but I kept the label. And I also diluted it further. because as it came, it was 1% and it was still stronger than I want to use in my recipes. So I diluted it to 1/3%. Now this is synthetic civet, but it wasn't clear on the website. Is this a mixture or is this just diluted civitone? I couldn't be sure, so I wanted to get another sample, and this does say that it's civitone. It smells a lot different from the Pellwall. So the Pellwall civet is a mixture, it's a blend. But this is just a nice musk. It's only a little bit animal, it's not so fecal. It's just wonderful, musky, transparent, subtle, cozy scent. So I'm glad I was able to find that civitone. Best believe I'll be using it. Rose oxide. Here's another one that I have some rose oxide. I think I got it from CCS, Consolidated Chemical. I diluted this to 25%, but it's very strong green bell peppery. It's extremely green. It does not smell like rose at all. Now, to be fair, that's racemic rose oxide, and this may not be. It's got letters after it, so this is perfume grade rose oxide. And some of these compounds do exist in mirror image forms, and there often is a difference between the two, Carvone being the famous example. This rose oxide, it's similar to the other. It's just as green, bell peppery. It's not nearly as overpowering. And it's a little bit floral and a little bit perfumey, I guess. So this is a more subtle version that's nicer and I think more suited to perfumes. D-limonene redistilled. I got this because I'm almost out of D-limonene. It was another Consolidated Chemical purchase. But I'm going to compare just in case I know what the Consolidated Chemical limonene smells like. This is pretty much the same. This smells the same. Hexanal, which is another aldehyde that I'm not going to open right away until I'm ready to dilute it. Hexanal is supposed to be a leafy, grassy aldehyde. So it's aldehyde C6, so it's 6 carbon atoms per molecule. So my next step then is to determine from my order, from my purchase, my online record, exactly what quantity these two aldehydes, C6 and C9, are. And then pour out the required amount of ethanol, dilute them, and then smell them and report back on what they smell like. So now I've gone and measured my diluent. So each of these bottles is 5 grams, contains 5 grams of liquid. So I have 10 grams of hexanal and 10 grams of aldehyde C9 or nonanal. Now I want to do a 10% dilution of each one. So I've measured out 90 grams of ethyl alcohol, and another 90 grams. So now comes the fun part. I'm opening my hexanal. Oh, I can smell a little bit of green grassy already. I say I smell that rose oxide. Okay, now it's exposed to air, so I gotta be very quick. Oh wow. Oh, it's diffusive. It reminds me a lot of cis-3-hexenol. or leaf alcohol as it's called. This is pretty similar. So that was one, and now the other. This is an aliphatic aldehyde. Aliphatic aldehydes oxidize very quickly when exposed to air. Strong. And the way we prevent them from oxidizing is to dilute them in an alcohol such as ethanol, which is kind of the best choice because you want the alcohol to be as small a molecule as possible, but the smallest would be methanol, which is toxic. I'd rather stay away from it. But now here's 100 grams of 10% hexanal in ethanol. And I don't have enough flat surfaces in this house. Now I'm going to do the aldehyde C9. This is, I believe, supposed to be more of a rosy, orangey, mushroomy sort of aldehyde. It is. Now I am going to let the residue in these containers oxidize. Yeah, this is already starting. It's a lot like the aldehyde C8 and the C10. Like I did with the cinnamaldehyde, citral, benzaldehyde. I'm going to see what they smell like after they oxidize, after the residue oxidizes in the container. And in the case of the hexanal, in this particular case, I happen to also have hexanoic acid, caproic acid. So I know what that smells like. It's like goats. So once the residue of the hexanal oxidizes, I can smell it and determine how much it resembles that caproic acid, which is what it oxidizes to. So now I have 100 grams of 10% aldehyde C9. Oh, it's so nice, so aldehyde. It's kind of orangey. It's kind of like, it's midway between the C8 and the C10. And so now, I'm going to pour them into containers. For long-term storage, I'm using these 0-dropper caps. I would not typically use these with an ethanol dilution because the ethanol is too viscous, and when you tip it, it just comes pouring out, even though it's a dropper cap. But for storage, it works better because the kind of cap I like to use is not good long term when exposed to either ethanol or aroma compounds because the rubber degrades. But for my formulations, I do use the rubber dropper. The rubber dropper gives me the control I want in order to have the quantity I want of each ingredient. And I'm only going to put a little bit of liquid in because I'm going to want to use up that liquid quickly. I'm not going to bother to rinse the funnel, but while it's still wet with alcohol, I'm going to sort of wipe it a little. The aldehyde C9, it's not overpowering like the hexanal, the C6. Oh, I hate it when I do that. So I poured the less strongly smelling one first. There's some goat in this already. This is the empty container with the residue. It's a little bit goat. This is not. So, dilute your aliphatic aldehydes. It works. Use a primary alcohol such as ethanol, which is what Perfumer's alcohol is. Do not let them expose to air undiluted. I learned that the hard way. You shouldn't have to. Smaller quantity C6. Can't wait to make something that smells nice and green with this. So, I hope you enjoyed my unboxing video. First one I've done, and I sure enjoyed it. All of these smells. I think my favorite out of these might be the Civetone. It's amazing. And I bet this would pair well with Muguet, Bourgeonal, or Cyclamel. And close second is the Delta Decalactone. It's the next morning, the 23rd. 23s are unlucky for me. True to form, I'm in pain. But I thought I would check in on that residue in that empty bottle from the hexanal, the aldehyde C6. Compare, I have one of the ones I diluted last night. Green and grassy and fresh as ever. It also reminds me a little bit of apple. Green apple. This container, one of the empties, was left closed all night. I'm going to see how it smells. Little sweaty, little rancid. Not super bad, but I wouldn't use this in perfume. Still has that greenness, that grassiness. This one, otherwise identical, was left open all night. Oh yeah. Things are definitely getting caproic in there. And then to compare to that, I have this caproic acid that I diluted in dipropylene glycol. It's 5%. It's very goat-like, a little fecal. You know, I wonder if this is a pure sample or if it's somehow naturally derived and has natural impurities. I maybe should find out if there's a way I can check for that. In any case, using this dilute caproic acid as my reference. Yes, this does have some of that quality in it. The one that stayed open all night. Residue has definitely gone bad. So, thank goodness for ethanol. And that's today's video. I'm going to try to get it uploaded today. I've been really bad about not editing, processing, recording my videos. I try to get done real soon. Is an update to the aldehydes video. I've got one where I made all kinds of mixtures of agonists, of target ORs, and smelled them. And because there's so many, I'm wondering maybe I should do that as two separate videos. I haven't decided yet. And I know there's more. I'm getting through it gradually. Thank you for watching.